We're going to record. Okay, so as I was saying, my name is Perlita Payne, and I am the chair of ALASC. And I'm joined tonight by Laura McLaughlin, who is the regional events coordinator, and Brooke Heskett, our treasurer. Let's see. So I just wanted to give a little background about this event. One of our event partners, Campus Reading, chose Justice Sotomayor's memoir as SJSU's book selection for this school year. Justice Sotomayor actually spoke on campus on Monday. The event was at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it was live streamed. I don't know if any of you was able to catch that. There's been a flurry of other events scheduled with regards to her book and her visit, and tonight we are gathering for our online book discussion. So we wanted to start by giving you a quick introduction about Justice Sotomayor's life, and Laura is going to talk about some important milestones in Justice Sotomayor's life. Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Hi, so we have a brief timeline here, and Justice Sotomayor was born in 1954 in New York City. In 1976, she graduated from Princeton, and then 3 years later, she graduated from Yale Law School. Following her tenure at Yale Law School, she was the Assistant DA of New York City from 1979 to 1984. And then she was an associate at Pavia and Harcourt from 1984 to 1992. And then she served as a U.S. District Court judge from 1992 to 1998. And following that, she was a U.S. Court of Appeals judge from 1998 to 2009. And her current position, which started in 2009, is she's acting as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
All right, great. Okay, well, thanks, Laura. That was great. Let's see. So this next slide, we have some images from the 1950s that one of our board members, Lori, put together. Over here to the left, we have baby Sonia with her parents. I'm sorry, the picture is rather small. I hope you can see it. She's very cute. And then these are pop culture images from this time period. We have Rita Moreno, who was on the cover of Life magazine in 1954 when Justice Sotomayor was born. And also, it's important to note that in 1954, Brown versus Board of Education was also decided. And then we have a fascination with American cars, right in this picture here next to Rita Moreno. And there's also a growing interest by Americans. Americans are becoming more interested in French designers. And then, of course, there's Marilyn Monroe here with that famous scene where she's standing on a vent. So these are images from the 1950s. And then we also have images from the 1970s when she graduated from Princeton. Here she is on the left at Princeton. And then some of the pop culture images are, there's the Camaro, which was the first generation Camaro came out in the late 60s, early 70s. And then we have Charlie's Angels, and we have disco. And then we also start seeing depictions of people of color in the media. So in this next section, I'm going to talk about some quotes that really stood out for me from the book. This first quote, she's basically talking about the purpose for writing her memoir. And she says, to make my hopeful example accessible, people who live in difficult circumstances need to know that happy endings are possible. And this is my favorite quote from the book. She says, experience has taught me that you cannot value dreams according to the odds of their coming true. Their real value is in stirring within us the will to aspire. And then she also talks about the role of public libraries in her growing up in the Bronx. She says, "My solace and only distraction that summer was reading. I discovered the pleasure of chapter books and devoured a big stack of them. The Parkchester Library was my haven. To thumb through the card catalog was to touch an infinite bounty, more books than I could even possibly exhaust." So she gives a shout out to public libraries there. And in this one, this is my own reading, but I think, this makes it clear, like, where she stands politically. I could be wrong. She says, "Quiet pragmatism, of course, lacks the romance of vocal militancy, but I felt myself more a mediator than a crusader. My strengths were reasoning, crafting promises, finding the good and the good faith on both sides of an argument, and using that to build a bridge." And I think this is important because, we're all students here. I think this is perfect advice for us about the power of networking. She says, "Sometimes idealistic people are put off by the whole business of networking as something tainted by flattery in the pursuit of selfish advantage. But virtue and obscurity is rewarded only in heaven. To succeed in this world, you have to be known to people." And she talks a lot in her book about being motivated by wanting to help her community and about helping other people. She says, "Our humanity makes us each a part of something greater than ourselves. My heroes were all embedded in community, and the will to serve was first stirred by the wish to help my community." And she also says, "I didn't see good fortune as a chance to write my own ticket. My sense of it remained as something entrusted to me, not given outright. And I would have enjoyed no peace of mind until I'd found some worthy use for it." Okay, so those are the quotes that stood out for me. And now we can move on to the discussion part. And we have some prepared questions, but and we can easily jump into that. But I wanted to take a moment to see if someone out there has a burning desire to speak right now about any aspect of the book. Is there anyone? You can type or just grab the mic.
Would it be okay to talk about one of our favorite parts of the books now, or should we wait?
No, you can certainly go ahead.
Okay, so I have not finished the book, I admit, but I'm almost finished the book, and other than just absolutely loving the way it was written, because some memoirs, they tend to be still on the more academic, more haughtily written side. This was more relatable to me. One of the things that and I apologize for my dog barking in the background, who's always barking when I'm on these things. But anyway, one of my favorite stories that she told about is on page 115, and she's talking about her geometry teacher who accused her of cheating, and so she said, "So who did I cheat from?" I asked indignantly. "Who else got 100 that I could have copied from?" She looked flummoxed for a moment. "But you've never scored higher than 80s or low 90s on the practice test. How could you get 100? The truth, as I explained, was that I'd never once got an answer wrong on the practice test. Points had been deducted only because I hadn't followed the steps she had prescribed. I'd reasoned out my own steps, which made sense to me, and she had never explained what was wrong with them. On the Regents exam, we only had to give the answer. No one was checking the steps. What happened next truly amazed me. She dug out my old tests and reviewed them. Acknowledging the validity of my proofs, she changed my grades." I thought that was just a great example of her kind of bucking the system, and also pointing out that though she didn't do as she was told, she was she made legitimate decisions. And I also have a hard time with math, so that also touched something on me too. But I just thought that was a really cute, even though not so serious portion of the tale.
I also think that her law career may have started there.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, I think, depending on your age, I think it's hard to stand up to a teacher like that. And she did point out, you know, you didn't, this doesn't give the opportunity to show my steps, and you never asked me why I used the proofs I did in the practice test. So it was absolutely respect.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Laura. Does anybody else want to share?
If Mara is typing until she presses enter. The other thing that I also liked was she spoke highly of libraries. On page 162, she says, whenever I felt out of place or homesick, I took refuge at Firestone Library. Books had seen me through an earlier time of trouble, and their presence all around me was a comfort and an answer to the question of why I'd come here. From my first day on campus, I'd enviously eyed the Carols in Firestone, which were reserved for upperclassmen. One day, one of those would be mine. So I also just thought that was a great snippet.
Yes, I also loved her description of that Princeton library. Firestone is in Princeton, right? It made me want to visit it. It sounds like it has some really, it's an old library and it has a lot of cool things in it. Okay, well, we can also look at some of the questions that we have here until somebody else has something different to say. Okay, so this first question, it says, Justice Sotomayor emphasizes throughout My Beloved World her sense of, quote, essential optimism. How did the overall optimistic tone of her book resonate with you while you were reading it? Was she too self-congratulatory, or did she hit just the right note with you? And feel free to just grab the mic or type.
I didn't, excuse me, I didn't find it to be too self-congratulatory, and I actually would hope that a lot of people wouldn't have found it. I think there comes a certain point when you do, I mean, she definitely didn't come across as arrogant. So yeah, she was proud of herself, and she had come a long way, and she had done amazing things. So I think that the optimism that she showed throughout the book and throughout her life was well earned, and I think it's okay to be a little bit. I think we all need to be a little bit more self-congratulatory. And so no, I definitely didn't feel that it was too much. I thought it was just a perfect blend of humility and understanding her self-worth.
Just a question to kind of go in line with this. Did you find her to be honest in her delivery? Because we talked about, maybe too self-congratulatory or whatnot, but did it strike you as being honest, as someone just being aware of her strengths and being able to, write about it and be glad of those strengths. Does that make sense?
I think that's exactly how she is. I think that when you come from a place that is a troubled background, whatever your situation may be, and you're able to get through it, and then, especially in her case, succeed to such a high level of being, that I think that, yeah, she was able to say, I can be proud of myself for having the strength to have gotten through this. And like I said, I don't think it was at all arrogant. I think it was very truthful. And I was very, it hit a right note with me. I can't yet in my life relate to that because I'm still struggling to be able to talk about that, like that about myself. Obviously, I haven't done the things she has, but no, I thought it was very honest.
I was actually thinking of that same word to describe her, Laura, humility. As I was reading through it, I was like, wow, she's done all these great things, and then, she's always talking about how, she wants to give back to her community, do something for other people, and I just found it to be really refreshing. I don't typically read memoirs. I'm more of a science fiction person, but it was just really something different to read. And I think the other route that she could have gone would be to dig in that muck. And, we're so used to it with the, reality TV and things like The Wire. But this was something different. She was really, I think she really was trying to focus on the positive things that were good around her.
I have to say that I really admire her ability to do that because especially in the industry that she chose to join, to be able to, come from a place, a challenging background, and then to enter a field that is so fraught with argument because, even in the best case scenario, legal cases, just cases in general, are about a disagreement, an argument between two parties, and to make it through years of that and to do as well as she has and to come through it with such optimism and to be described with humility, having worked in the legal industry, humility and attorneys not always synonymous, so I definitely think it is fantastic that she has been able to really attain that and to convey that to people in her memoir.
Yeah, definitely, and I just wanted to add, during this time, affirmative action was so new, and in many situations, she found herself to be the only woman, the only Latina, the only one who was poor. She had so many of these experiences, but then she made it through, and she wrote very well about it, very positively. All right. Does anyone else have anything more to say about this question? Okay, and we can certainly go back to any questions if you come up with anything to say later that you want to share. We're going to move on to the next one. Okay, so Justice Sotomayor writes in her book, "A surplus of effort could overcome a deficit of confidence." Do you relate to that statement? Okay, and Christina wrote, "Yes, I think so."
So, Christina, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was literally just, I was just going to say that. No, Christina just said, I think that is very similar to the fake it till you make it maxim, which is cheesy, but I think it works. Oh my gosh. No, I was just going to say that absolutely. I think that if you, well, fake it till you make it, but the more you put effort into it and you see that you're succeeding, I think that just will have you gain confidence anyway. And I also think that for me, when I'm working on something and I'm not confident on it, I kind of forget about my confidence level if I just put my whole self into the effort. So confidence just doesn't even matter because I just get into the zone. But absolutely, just fake it till you make it, and then everything will kind of go into place. Carlita, do you agree? Do you relate to this statement or agree with her?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And I saw it in her book as well. You know, when she got to Princeton, she realized that she couldn't write as well as other people could. So she, you know, took those summer classes to improve her writing. You know, she forced herself to network so she can meet other people. And, you know, she developed all these connections. So definitely, and I also apply this in my life. Especially I think as women, we kind of suffer from a deficit of confidence. I just find this saying to be really helpful. I don't know if you all agree.
You know, I do. I really do. But at the same time, I was in band for many years in middle school and high school, and it kind of reminds me of the saying about, you know, practice makes perfect. But then I was in high school. No, I waited until I was an adult to try a rock band. No, I played the flute. It was lots of fun, but it was, you know, okay, so it went from practice makes perfect to perfect practice makes perfect. So I wonder how that kind of can be incorporated into this quote, because a surplus of effort, if it's not directed in the right way, could have the reverse effect, right?
Can you say more?
Oh, well, I was just saying, you know, a surplus of effort could overcome a deficit of confidence. Because, yes, when fake it till you make it absolutely resonates with me. But like that saying from band, perfect practice makes perfect. If you have a surplus of effort, but you're not channeling it perhaps in the right way, it doesn't necessarily generate anything positive. Does that make sense? Does anybody else have any, you know, feeling for or against that?
Do you want to try rewording your question, Brooke?
Well, I just was wondering, what other people's opinion might be of that. Do they see a surplus of effort as I'm not quite sure how to reword it. Go ahead, Kate.
Hi, can you hear me all right? Okay, great. I can totally relate to the statement, and I also agree with, I'm not sure who was last speaking, Brooke, I think maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think that if your efforts are misdirected, it's only going to contribute to your deficit of confidence. I think for me, what overcomes my deficit of confidence is putting in a lot of hard work and then being presented with opportunities as a result that kind of reaffirm that I am directing my efforts in the right direction. And so, I have trouble with that because I don't want to, I want my source of confidence and strength to come from within, and it's not a good idea to focus on external validation in terms of feeling like you're headed in the right direction and to build your confidence, because that isn't always going to be available. But I do feel like if I am putting in the right effort and it's a surplus, that when I am presented with an opportunity that is aligned with that effort and is going to further me in the direction that I'm headed, that will overcome my deficit of confidence.
Well, thanks for that, Kate. Does anybody else want to talk about this question? Did you want to say more about that, Kate? You wrote, it reminds me of the imposter syndrome.
I don't know if anyone here is familiar with that term, but I was first introduced to it at an information architecture summit, and they actually did a session on it. And I think that a lot of people in technology fields that are really new, who are kind of breaking new ground, there's a lot of uncertainty, and because because it is so new, there aren't a lot of people who are understanding it like you might understand it, and they might, instead of realizing could maybe learn something, they might think like, oh, I don't know what she's talking about. She's, problem employee asking questions that aren't relevant, or that kind of thing. So you don't have a lot of external validation, and you have to kind of forge ahead knowing that you're headed in the right direction. And so they talked about feeling like an imposter. You're making that headway, but because you're so alone in it, it can sometimes feel like, you're an imposter and you're creating these situations that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, when usually you're the only one who knows what you're talking about and other people don't understand it.
Thanks for explaining that. Does anyone else have anything else to add about this question? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one, and we can go back to the other questions if you have something that crops up. I know a couple people entered the room while we were discussing this question. If you would like to share anything about the book, feel free to take the mic or type. We just have these questions that we have, but we can certainly stop to to give you a chance to talk about the book and your experience reading it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Feel free to stop me if there's something that comes up for you. This question says, how do the mentors Justice Sotomayor meet at various stages of her life shape her approach to her role as a model for others? Do you have mentors in your life who have provided or now provide support in different ways?
I have had mentors, especially in my graduate programs and in college. I think that outside of the professional world, though, I have not been able to find mentors like the ones that she has, and that's just something that I'm hoping to take care of and to find a mentor, in the near future. And I think that mentors are great things if you can find them. But I unfortunately haven't been able to find one outside of my education system, which is great in itself, but it doesn't necessarily translate to when I leave school. I tend to, like when I was in my first master's program, I had mentors that were professors, but then since I've left and kind of changed fields, I haven't really talked to them very much. So they definitely were mentors for that stage of my life, but now they're not. So I'm just looking for new ones. Yeah. Carlita, do you have any mentors right now?
I actually don't have any formal mentors. I'm in contact with this librarian who was my site supervisor at an internship site, and she's really great because she's been in the profession for about 8 years, and she also went to our school, so it's just great talking to her. We talk about classes, and we talk about job openings and things like that, and preparing for the job market. I also have some teachers that I keep track of, email back and forth asking about different things. I was actually, the reason why I asked this is because I was really impressed by the connections that Justice Sotomayor was able to make, going all the way to her days at Yale Law. Well, even like high school, because she kept up with Ken Moy, and Ken Moy told her about applying to Ivy League schools, and then her involvement in the forensic clubs in high school, which got her interested in, pursuing a law degree. Just these things that are tied together, the people along the way that she met and kept in touch with. And I don't think she had formal mentoring relationships with them, but they certainly acted like her mentor. And meeting Jose Cabranes, who was there at her swearing in. I can't remember which judgeship it was. Just amazing, you know, the collection of people in her life. I mean, I also want to have a third of that, or you know. So I hope that answers the question. Does anyone else want to address this question?
I know for me personally, I mean, I've never thought of myself as having had a mentor, and I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. But as a result of being in school, there's a lot of people I met and that I've connected with and maintained contact through LinkedIn with, and a lot of those people I would feel very comfortable reaching out to them, whether that's just to ask them a question about the field they work in, or ask them if they would be willing to review my resume, or you know, so it's for me, it's like knowing how to ask the people who are in my network for kind of mentoring assistance. And it doesn't necessarily end up being a single person. It can be, you know, many different people who provide support in different ways. And I also just, you know, when I am looking to connect with people, it's, you know, it's if there's an openness and a willingness there to kind of step into that role, I make a mental note of that so that I can, you know, reach out to them if I need to. So, and I have had, like, I'm going to a conference in a couple of days where a woman who had been a workshop leader at a previous conference I went to, as well as my internship supervisor, encouraged me to attend this conference. And so, you know, the first recommendation I got, I was like, well, all right. But then it's like when my site supervisor suggested it, you know, it was like, okay, this is something here. I want to follow up on this. It's actually the IEEE Big Data Conference that's happening near Washington, D.C. And so, yeah, and I applied for a travel grant. But had I not had that encouragement from those people who knew me from interacting with me in my academic settings, I would not have participated. And, you know, conferences can provide amazing opportunities for, like, connecting with even more people and clarifying your career focus and things like that. So for me, it's more about developing professional networks of people who I can connect with, and we can help each other. And I kind of approach mentoring like that.
All right. Christina wrote, Perlita, when you referred to her mentors as a collection of mentors, it made me rethink my original position, which was that I don't think I have any mentors. Do you want to say more about that, Christina? And Christina wrote, I think we have people who have played mentor roles at different points in our lives. Maybe we didn't see them as capital M mentors, but they could have helped or encouraged, which are things that mentors do. That's a great point.
You know, I agree with Christina. I know I've had people who have helped me and encouraged me over the years that would probably qualify as mentors, but I know recently I have one specific person that has really stood out as someone who, for lack of a better phrase, has taken me under her wing, and was the one that encouraged me to apply for jobs and to, do certain things, and then is helping guide me through all of kind of the ins and outs of my new position, which has been really nice, knowing that you have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and turn to, not to supersede anybody in your organization or whatnot, but just to have as a reference, someone to go to. And it's meant a great deal for me now, and I can only imagine how each mentor affected the life of Justice Sotomayor. I think they can have a pretty profound effect.
All right, thanks everyone for sharing about that question. Does anybody have one last thought about this one? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question here. This one reads, how have Justice Sotomayor's strong attachment to her community, family, and friends shaped her personality and unique perspective? How do they reflect the attitudes she acquired growing up in a Puerto Rican culture? Could these attitudes have been acquired in other ways?
Well, I'll just say, I don't think these attitudes could have been acquired any other way. And if they were acquired another way, it would be much more intellectual than being like a holistic experience. I think it's human nature not to fully comprehend on every level of our being what circumstances are like unless we experience them ourselves. And I think that's why diversity is so important, because you can't go to school and you can learn about them intellectually, but unless you have that experience, you don't fully understand. And so, diversity makes us stronger then, because we're coming from all these different circumstances, and we can share the knowledge that we've learned from our circumstances in crafting solutions and finding common ground and that kind of thing. But yeah, I consider myself to be a sensitive person, but I'm a white girl from the Chicago suburbs, and that is fundamentally who I am, even if I'm not always happy with that. So, I know very well what that circumstance is like, but, and I can sympathize and empathize and try to intellectually understand other circumstances, but I won't fully feel it in every aspect of my being unless I experience it firsthand.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Kate. I definitely think that Justice Sotomayor was very much influenced by, growing up in the Bronx in a strong Puerto Rican community. And one thing that really touched me about these connections and her mentor, she considers them to be family, and I think that is rooted in her Puerto Ricanness, if I can say that without offending anybody, and I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. But, everyone's family. I talked about Ken Moy, who she knew from high school. She refers to him as like her brother. The people she meets in the DA's office and even in the private firm, some of those people she considers to be her sister. I mean, these are, I feel like they're unique things about Puerto Rican culture, the importance of family and community. And it kind of makes you think, like, which came first? And you really can't think of it that way, because she's very much, she comes from the Bronx and she identifies with the community of the Bronx. Somebody raised their hand. Mara, go ahead.
Can you all hear me? Awesome. So yes, I wanted to agree with you, Bernita, because I'm Puerto Rican, so I do think that those attitudes are really do really reflect the culture. And you were talking about her considering her mentors family members as well, and that's something we do a lot in Puerto Rican culture. Like sometimes we just have friends or mentors or people in our network or in our support system that we really get attached to and we really consider as family. Sometimes I even have, aunts that are not really blood related, and we call them tia, and it's just how it is. So I do really think that those attitudes are really attached to her culture. And I really agree also with what Kate was saying, that that's why diversity is so important, because some of our attitudes, well, most of our attitudes are shaped by not only our education, but also our our culture, our experience growing up, our social, economic, culture background. So I do think that diversity is really important. Also, I agree with Kate. It's because everyone does have something to bring to the table when you think about it, and some different types of attitudes to bring to the table. So we kind of have to embrace, instead of just thinking about living in a neutral kind of environment, we do have to embrace different diverse experiences of everyone, and how they do shape our current attitudes, and how can they shape whatever situation we're in, interacting with other people with different backgrounds as well.
Well, thank you for that, Mara. All right, we only have a few minutes left. Does anyone else have something to say about this question before I move on to the last question? Okay, and this is the last question. Are there aspects of Justice Sotomayor's life you think she should have explored more fully? Or, another way of phrasing this question, was there something that she left out, in your opinion?
I think that I'm sure that some people will say that there are aspects that she could have explored more fully, but I also don't think that this will be the only memoir that she does. So I think there will be the opportunity for her to address anything else that she feels that she didn't get into in this memoir, in any future memoirs. I think that for this memoir, I think I'm happy with what like I said, I haven't finished it yet. I'm near the end. But no, I personally don't think that there was anything that I was missing. Again, I think that there will probably be a future memoir, and if anybody thinks that there are things that are missing, they will be addressed in the future. Oh, and one more thing. I also think that if I did think there were more things that she should have explored more fully, it's not my story to tell, it's her story to tell. So I think that the onus is on me to dig deeper into her life if I felt the need. I don't know if other people agree with that or not. I just think that some of these things, when you're writing a memoir, I think when it comes down to it, it's really what you want your story to be about, and I think that should be the most important thing. There are other avenues for people to find out information about the person that wrote the memoir.
I guess in conjunction with that, I also kind of feel like, I mean, I guess, you know, my approach is, how can I look at someone who has lived such a full and amazing and accomplished life and say, you know, well, you should have done this, because if she made different choices at any aspect of her life, it very well could have led to a different outcome. So, you know, for me, I think that it would have to be an aspect of respecting all of the choices that she did make, because, you know, what I might feel needs to be explored more fully is more my personal perspective on life, or my own beliefs, and in taking this memoir, I just really want to respect who she is and what she's communicating with us. That's just my 2 cents.
Right, anyone else? All right, Kate wrote, I admire her tenacity. Yeah, she's got a lot of it. I actually wanted more juicy, gossipy things in her book. You know, who was the guy who broke her heart, things like that. But I guess I'd have to get it from elsewhere. Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Really appreciated everyone here. Thank you for showing up and you know, providing such really good responses and sharing your thoughts. Thank you for coming, and I also want to thank all our partners who promoted this event with us. Kate from Assist is here, and I saw Elizabeth from CLA SIG, I believe. And Shantae tried to come. She's from SLA. So great. I hope you guys will come to our other events. Yeah, thanks for coming out tonight.